Now, back live with Andrew Bolt with the Bolt Report.
This country is going nuts. It's becoming so impossible, really, to be saying something that the left elites hate. This show's still okay. But one man is fighting back. Marine scientist Professor Peter Ridd. He was fired by James Cook University after questioning claims that global warming is destroying the Great Barrier Reef. Now, he pointed out that a lot of the so-called science did not stack up. And when the university charged him with misconduct for insulting his colleagues, would you believe, and they told him to shut up, he refused.
We can no longer trust the scientific organisations like the Australian Institute of Marine Science, even things like the ARC Centre of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies. A lot of this stuff is coming out, which the science is coming out not properly checked, tested or replicated.
Now, after that interview on Sky News, he was sacked, Peter Ridd. He was sacked by his university and is now fighting back in a court case that will finally be heard next week. The Institute of Public Affairs has helped him, so please help them in return. And it's just released the film to promote this critical fight for free speech and for academic freedom. Now, here are some of it, and you'll be able to see more on my blog when I get around to posting it later tonight.
Is the Great Barrier Reef dying?
No, look, the reef is in fantastic shape. I often say that of all the ecosystems in the world, possibly with the exception of Antarctica, the Great Barrier Reef is one of the best preserved there is. I used to be president of the local branch of the Wildlife Preservation Society. I'm an environmentalist. There's a duty here, in fact. There's just some absolute rubbish being spoken about the reef, and people's livelihoods are actually being put in jeopardy by this thing. And if nobody will stand up, then this is just going to go on and on and on. It has to be stopped.
Joining me now is Gideon Rozner, Director of Policy at the Institute of Public Affairs. Gideon, thanks for joining me.
Great to be here.
Why is this case so important, do you think?
Well, it's important for two reasons broadly, Andrew. Firstly, there's a huge public policy issue at stake here. The Australian government and indeed state governments are spending billions of dollars to save the Great Barrier Reef when indeed the quality of the science may very well be patchy. In the film, Peter Ridd estimates that as much as 50% of so-called peer-reviewed science on the Great Barrier Reef may not be completely accurate. But secondly, there's a bigger problem here. For speaking out against the climate change zeitgeist and the conventional orthodoxy when it comes to this idea that the climate change is killing the reef, Peter Ridd has been hit with warnings from his employer, James Cook University, with censures, with absurd gag orders, and eventually had his employment terminated. The worst part about this is, Andrew, this is one person who has come out. How many other Peter Ridds are there who aren't speaking out and who have been silenced by university administrators?
I know there was even a ban on him even telling his wife that about the
Correct.
case. It's just so extraordinary. And we should also point out, of course, that James Cook University ended the honorary position of another famous climate skeptic, Professor Bob Carter. Which, boy, two strokes against that university. I wouldn't be sending my kids there if I wanted an all-round education and a child that was willing to question received wisdoms. On what grounds is Peter Ridd challenging his dismissal?
Well, this is where it gets really, really interesting. The National Tertiary Education Union, who have supported Peter Ridd, I don't often say...
You're going to fall off my chair.
I don't often say good things about various trade unions in this country, but to their credit, they're doing what they should be doing, supporting their members. In the enterprise bargaining agreement covering employees at James Cook University, effectively Peter's employment contract, there is a very wide and very extensive academic freedom clause. Peter is permitted under that EBA to say what he likes, to comment within his field of expertise, to question decisions of the university, really has blanket powers. So under that EBA, he is protected by this academic freedom clause.
Now, Peter says he can't really talk now at the moment because of all the legal nightmares. He's been writing, in the time that has been sacked, he's been writing a new book about the Great Barrier Reef. Have his views changed at all?
No, they haven't. And as you saw on the grab that we played just now, and as people will see in the film that the IPA has put out, Peter Ridd has said that the Great Barrier Reef is one of the most pristine ecosystems in the world. These ghastly white corals you see on TV, used as this scare campaign, as Peter says, or according to Peter, are generally a sign, a natural sign that the corals are adjusting to warmer temperatures. Don't forget, the coral reefs grow in much hotter temperatures around the world. They grow around Thailand, they grow around India, also very close to the equator. So really, while they don't look too flash on TV having these bleached corals, it's a natural process of corals adjusting to hotter temperatures.
And it's remarkable to me. I mean, I once debated on ABC back in the days when you could debate these things. Professor Irv Hulgerberg is one of the, I think, probably the leading coral alarmists in the country. And it really struck me how often, and I put it to him actually, how often it's predicted imminent doom, corals are all wiped out, and almost so many times he had to come back and say, whoops, they've recovered faster than I thought they would. And I suspect this is all the same thing all over again.
Correct.
Now, why is it then? As I said, this was in the days when we did have debates. So that's about the last time I could debate him. I can't debate Tim Flannery anymore after a couple of failed attempts on his part. But why is it that Peter Ridd speaking out seems to be such a threat to the establishment?
Well, look, as Peter Ridd wrote in our publication, Climate Change, The Facts, which the IPA put out in 2017, questioning the conventional orthodoxy when it comes to the reef can be a career-limiting move.
But why? Why is that? What were they losing in just having a debate?
Well, my personal view is that there's a lot of money in a crisis. And as Peter says in the film, to get a grant and funding from university in many instances, you have to mention climate change and the threat of it at least half a dozen times.
How much money was it that Malcolm Turnbull just handed out like that to some...
Only a cool quarter of $500 million.
$500 million just like that to some group that nobody had ever heard of.
They wouldn't receive it if there wasn't a problem. If there wasn't a problem to solve.
If there wasn't a perceived problem.
A perceived problem, correct.
Exactly right. Gideon Rozner, I just think, a lot of people say bad things about the IPA. I do not. Because I think the IPA has really been important in the battle for free speech in this country. There's, I think, no other organisation, including, to its shame, the Liberal Party, which has done more to defend a freedom that is being snuffed out in front of our eyes. So I really appreciate what the Institute of Public Affairs is doing in the Peter Ridd case, and I hope to hear from you as this case progresses.
Well, thank you, Andrew. And if anybody's interested, go to ipa.org.au/Peter Ridd. We'll be sending out updates very soon when the trial's underway next week.
Gideon Rozner, thank you so much.
Thanks you, Andrew.